The story began with an intense battle. The knights are trying to defend the castle from an unknown person. The attacker was easily defeating the knights like it was nothing. As he continued his march towards the castle, the knights were trying their best to protect the princess. But all their efforts were proving futile as the attacker was very powerful and was easily defeating the knights. As he walked up the stairs, the final line of knights were preparing for the last battle. There we see a knight with a pink hair determined to protect the princess. As the attacker stands in front of them, it is revealed that he is the Emperor of Galkhein, Arnold Hein, the man who have started a war on the world. The knights were very anxious when they saw him, but on the other hand, Arnold was very calm. The knights launched an attack with all their might, but Arnold easily fended off their attacks and killed them. Only the pink-haired knight and one other were left. Both of them tried their best, but Arnold, without any effort, broke the knight's sword and was about to kill him. Luckily, the knight was saved by his comrade who sacrificed himself, not missing this precious opening. The knight at once aimed for Arnold's head, but unfortunately, Arnold dodged the attack and killed the knight. As the knight was taking his last breath, the time started to move back and the knight returned to the past. Here we find out that the knight was actually a lady from a noble family, and in the past, she was being rejected by a prince for marriage. But the lady was unfazed by it and gladly accepted the rejection. Even the prince was shocked by her indifference. The lady left the scene without any sadness. On the contrary, she seemed happy. It turned out that it was actually her 7th time relieving her life, the first time in her life, similar to present situation. She was being rejected by the prince. And that time she didn't take the rejection quite well and was very saddened. She couldn't believe she was denied by the prince. And not only that, she was also expelled from the country. Even her own parents disowned her. In the night with her luxurious dress, she was wandering aimlessly across the country as she had nowhere to go. After walking for some time, she stopped in the middle of a forest where she met a bunch of merchants who were traveling in their carriage. The young lady tried to trade her precious ring with them, but the leader was very kind. Instead, he took the helpless lady along with him. He explained the lady that their company doesn't do business just for the sake of money, but rather business was a passion for them. The leader also offered the young lady to become a merchant. Initially, the lady was reluctant, but the leader assured that she is lucky as she have been freed from the fate of the stifling princess. And now she can travel anywhere as she please, as no one will be able to control her now. Upon hearing the leader's optimist's words, the lady got a new outlook of life, and she became excited to explore the world. She now wanted to become a merchant, so in her first life, she learned to trade from the leader. Then she later became independent as a merchant. She was now exploring the whole world, and there was only one country left to visit. But before she could reach there, she ended up in the middle of a war and lost her life. But then after her death, she was again sent back into time. This time again, the prince was rejecting her. At first she thought she was dreaming, but after pinching herself, she was sure it wasn't a dream. Now, as she knew her self-worth, she didn't waste any time listening to the prince's nonsense and left the scene at once. Everyone was surprised, but she didn't pay any attention to any of them. Her only regret in her past life was that she couldn't take any of her personal assets. As with them, she could have expanded her business much faster. However, because of her delay in the house, she missed the merchants and was left alone. But this time, she wasn't a helpless lady like before. And in her second life, she decided to study pharmacy. Her experience from her previous life also proved very beneficial. She was even appointed to treat a sickly prince. She became very successful in her field. But just like before, in her second life, she was caught up between a war and died again. She again traveled back to the past. In her third life, her goal was to pursue a unique field of study than before. So she tried to become a researcher this time. She studied under the guidance of Professor Michelle Evan. She learned everything that she could from Evan. And then they parted ways. She continued her research alone, but again she died in a war in her fourth life. She ended up becoming a servant in a duke's family. And surprisingly, in her sixth life, she disguised herself as a man to become a knight. And in that life, she was killed by Arnold Hein. The wars that always ended her life was started by this man only. In her every life, she wasn't able to live a long life. So in her seventh life, she was determined to survive. Suddenly, she remembered that in all of her past lives, she took the front door. So she decided to take the back door this time. But as she was on her way, she suddenly stumbled upon a person as she was about to apologize. She saw the face of the man. It was none other than Arnold Hein, the man who killed her. She instantly recognized him, and in panic, she said out his name aloud. Arnold Hein inquired how she knew him. To his answer, she replied that although it was their first meeting, but she had heard a lot about him. She then apologized for bumping into him and explained she was just rejected by the prince and have to hurry. Then she approached the balcony and in a bold manner jumped from it. Even Prince Arnold was impressed by her, and then he ordered his secretary to prepare the horse. After that, she left for her house to retrieve her belongings, but as she reached her home, she saw that the prince was waiting for her. It seemed that the prince wanted to ridicule her even more, but same as before, she had no interest on what the prince had to say. The crowd began to doubt whether it was really the prince who dumped her, or was it the other way around? The prince was starting to get angry on the crowd and threatened them, but the lady berated the prince for talking to his subjects like that. Then she assured the prince that he doesn't have to worry about her, as she is going to leave the country. She was now full of confidence, as she knew well that even if she left, she could easily live her life happily, and she doesn't need the prince. A young girl arrived there to defend the prince. It seems the young girl was the one who told the prince false information about the lady, which in turn resulted the prince to call off his marriage. But the lady was not angry with the young girl. Rather, she sympathized with her. She told the young lady that she tried to subjugate her reputation because the young girl wanted to marry the prince to boost her noble house. But she warned the young girl that she have to take care of her wish also, and not only her family's wishes, so with her epic speech, she left the scene. As she was leaving, she felt an ominous presence behind her, and in an instant, she drawed the sword and attacked the person behind her. But the person was skilled enough to parry her attack and deflected it. It turned out that the person was none other than Arnold Hein. After exchanging the sword blows, Arnold asked her where she learned such swordmanship, but she replied that it was a secret. The prince, who was clueless, asked Arnold to get away from the lady, intervening the prince. The lady informed the prince that the man is not some ordinary person, but rather the crown prince of Galkhein. Upon learning his identity, the prince was shocked. Even the crowd were surprised, as they have heard a lot of rumors about him. They feared Arnold, as he had a reputation for his ruthlessness. The lady asked him what business does he have with her. As she asked this question, she was being very wary of Arnold, as he was the man who killed her in the sixth life. As she was thinking that, Arnold got into his knees and proposed her for marriage. Everyone, including the lady, were dumbfounded. It was very surprising. So this was all for today's video. If you guys want to watch the next video, please subscribe the channel.